What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so recently, former undisputed heavyweight champion Mike Tyson made an appearance on Shaquille O'Neal's The Big Podcast. And during this podcast, Shaq asked Mike Tyson a standard question in basketball that they ask everybody on these things. And one of them was rather predictable as far as who his GOAT is in basketball. The one that surprised me a little bit was his stance on who was the GOAT in heavyweight boxing, because it's a change from what he has stated in the past. But anyway, here's the clip right here.
Who's the greatest of all time in basketball?
I'm a Jordan guy.
Who's the greatest of all time in boxing?
In boxing,
Heavyweight.
me.
Yeah.
Say it with your chest.
Yeah. No, I agree. So do you get upset when they start throwing other names?
Listen, all right, I'm not being egotistical, okay? They said they know. If you put up statistics or something, ask the world.
I'm getting bored by statistics.
All right, so you guys heard that right there. When asked who he thought the GOAT in basketball was, he said Michael Jordan. That's not something that really surprises me. He came of age at the same time as Michael Jordan, right, roughly the same time. Mike Tyson came upon the national scene back in 1986 when he knocked out Trevor Berbick to become the youngest ever heavyweight champion in the world, just 20 years of age. Michael Jordan, of course, won Rookie of the Year back in the 1984-85 season. At the end of that season, he was just 22 years of age. So, like I said, he came of age around the same time. Now, of course, there were some parallels and some differences between their careers. Michael Jordan, at one point in time, you can make an argument, I would say 19, and I know this is hard for younger Michael Jordan fans or younger fans bleeders, but you can make a strong argument, I would say from 87 to about 89, Mike Tyson was a bigger star in sports than Michael Jordan. It wasn't a huge margin, but he was a bigger star. Hell, you can make an argument that Hogan from 87 to 88 was a bigger star than Michael Jordan. The landscape was different back then. A lot of stars in sports, huge stars. But of course, Mike Tyson had that fall from grace in the early 90s, which we don't need to rehash. Let's just say he got Me Too'd by a scandalous piece of trash who never was held culpable for lying. Well, as far as legally, anyway. He made a comeback in the mid-90s, like Michael Jordan did. He did regain the heavyweight title. People forget that in 1996 against Frank Bruno. I think it was a WBA title. Jordan, of course, had the greatest comeback. 3 consecutive NBA championships. All right, so that part I'm not surprised about. I am surprised that he called himself the greatest heavyweight champion of all time. Because previously, and with rather emphatic emotion, he would tell you that the greatest heavyweight champion of all time was Muhammad Ali. That's something he said standardly. You could argue back when Cus D'Amato was still alive and Tyson displayed his knowledge of heavyweight history, he would tout all the all-time greats, not just Muhammad Ali. I'm talking about going back to Sam Langford. Sam Langford, Jim Jeffries, Bob Fitzsimmons, going forward a little bit, Jersey Joe Walcott, one of the Methuselahs of boxing, Rocky Marciano, the Boston Strong Boy, John L. Sullivan. He knew his history. So he always paid homage to the greats. But him calling himself the GOAT in heavyweight boxing, so it's a shift. Now, maybe the fact that, when you look at the record, Tyson went 50, I think he had 50 victories versus 7 defeats. The Jake Paul defeat counts, I guess. I'll put a star by it. I think he has 2 no contests, I believe, with 44 knockouts. Now, by the win percentage wise, he doesn't have the greatest record, but it's a great record. And when it comes to resume, he has a great resume, but I think that Ali's resume and I would say Ali's resume to me stands out in heavyweight boxing. Don't get me wrong, Joe Louis's resume was great too, right? But I can't say, at least in my opinion, I can't say that Joe Louis's era, especially from like 1939 until 45, was that loaded with talent. I know they said he went on the Bum of the Month tour, but I think that was more just to talk about how often he fought rather than the quality of his competition. But Ali, his resume, man, is just unbelievable. Like, we really look at who he was fighting. I just gotta always give up to Ali. I'm sorry, man. Until I see someone do what he did. Yeah, he didn't have a 0, but this man literally was in the ring fighting with Parkinson's disease. It's pretty apparent in the interviews from 1978 onward that Ali was starting to suffer from the early signs of Parkinson's. Now, imagine some guy who can't even touch the tip of their fucking nose, right? Imagine a guy who it's being concealed, has small holes in the membrane of his brain. A guy who was letting opponents hit him in the kidneys in sparring, because he had this weird belief, which is not true, that would toughen up his kidneys, when in reality he was causing himself mild kidney damage, right? Pissing blood and shit. This guy was in the ring fighting against Olympians, you know what I'm saying? Like Leon Spinks. He was fighting against Larry Holmes when he shouldn't even been sanctioned to fight. And some of the great quality wins he had, man. He really beat, I think, next to Joe Louis, I believe it is, he has the most victories against Hall of Fame caliber fighters. So it's like, I know that contradicts what I just said about Joe Louis, but I'm talking about it was a gap in Joe Louis's career where he was fighting kind of mediocre fighters. But Joe Louis is still in my top 2 to 3 all-time heavyweights. Mike Tyson, to me, as much as a Tyson homer as I am, I love Mike Tyson, I don't even have Tyson in my top 5 heavyweights. I have him in my top 10, but not in my top 5. And the reason why I don't is, I'm different from most fanboys. You know what I'm saying? Yes, it might pain me to say certain things because I want to lie. Because I know how, when you think you're a fanboy, you want to lie and say something that sounds good. You want to spin it to put the guy that you like on a better light, in a better light. But I'm a guy that I have to generally tell the truth when I'm doing these things, man. Too many times against quality opposition, when the chips were down, I didn't see Mike Tyson rise to the occasion enough. Now, whether that's a drawback on his character or not, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like I've seen Mike Tyson go out there and dominate opponents. We've all seen that. But I haven't seen him do what I've seen other greats do, and that is to often gut it out and come back and I'm not saying I always got to win, but just come back and show that intestinal fortitude that we often think these guys last. Think that this guy lack. And honestly, I kind of hold it against him against Jake Paul, man, because I still think that he threw that fight for money. Maybe I'm wrong, because the fighting style that Tyson had, it is kind of more of a young man's fighting style, but still. But, Mike Tyson has his opinion. And maybe he's like, fuck it, all these other guys are going around calling themselves the GOAT. I'm going to start saying it. And I don't know. He's probably heard it enough now. And also, like I said, these things are generational. They're cyclical. Like when I was growing up as a little kid, a little pup, when the consensus heavyweight GOAT was Joe Louis. Ali was like top 3, but the GOAT was Joe Louis in heavyweight ranks. Then from the mid-90s, I would say from the time Ali held the Olympic torch until his death, it was, until recent years, it was Muhammad Ali, the greatest heavyweight ever. Some people say the greatest fighter. Now it kind of makes sense that the generation that watched Mike Tyson fight, they're the ones with the podcast. They're the ones who are the historians. They're the ones who are the sages now. They might have their own personal biases, recency biases, and now they're saying that it's Mike Tyson. But that, like I said, these things make sense because, shit, if you go back 50 years ago into the 70s, right, and you ask people who the GOAT was in heavyweight, you probably hear some people say, Joe Louis. But then you might have some people still say, a guy like maybe Jack Dempsey, even though he fought in a segregated era. You know what I'm saying? Or, I don't want to draw this out too long, but just try to make points here. If you go back to World War II and you ask someone who's the greatest heavyweight of all time, you might get answers from old timers like Jim Jeffries or Jack Johnson. And they'll have critiques about the young guys of the sport at that time. So like I said, these things are patterns. But anyway, tell me what you guys think.